All right, well, I'm David Ellefson, some of you may know, and we had this crazy idea this last year to start a little film production company around our friend Drew Fortier. And I knew Drew from being in Bang Tango. Remember Bang Tango?
Yeah.
Right? Yep. So when I lived in LA, they were on KNEC all the time, like in the late 80s, early 90s. Yeah, they were constantly on the radio. And then Drew and I met many years ago. And Drew, I knew him as a musician. And little did I know he was an actor until he started sending over little clips of this new film that he is doing called Dwellers, that he is producing, directing, and also starring in, and wrote it, and then pretty much the man doing all of it. So I'm going to let Drew do most of the talking on this one, even though it's under the Ellefson Films moniker of the production company. Drew is really the brain. This is his moment. So over to you, Drew.
Oh, thanks. Drew. Thank you. Hello. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. I think I know all of you by name by now, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, we're gonna debut the full trailer for the movie. I mean, we released a little 50-second teaser trailer a couple months ago, I think. But this is, and it was really vague. And actually, Canada's Mitch Lafon is in the movie. He does like a voiceover narration at the beginning, so it's pretty cool. That's in the teaser trailer. And this we're about to see is the full trailer, which you guys are the first to ever see it. And little setup, it's a found footage horror movie. Who here remembers a movie called Chud? Okay, got some Chud fans. It's like a sewer monster movie from the 80s. And, oh yeah. And, that's awesome. And so this is like Chud if it was shot like the Blair Witch Project. And Dave, Dave's in the movie as well. He plays himself as him and Tom Hazard as the producers of the movie, which is actually what they're doing in real life. And so there's a movie within the movie that I'm shooting. I'm playing myself as well as a documentarian. And we're shooting a movie about the missing homeless in this area in Ohio. And then we found out that, well, actually the trailer kind of goes over the rest of that. But I'm not sure, well, we've been tweaking the sound a little bit in the trailer. Everything's still kind of rough. So we just, hopefully you get the gist. And, oh yeah, it's the middle one right there. Yeah. And, yeah.
And the truth of it is we filmed our little segment when we were on tour, which is why it's a legitimate moment. Where is that? That was in Illinois, in Springfield, Illinois, when we played the Illinois State Fair on our Sleeping Giants tour. Tom and I were out promoting my new solo CD, Sleeping Giants, as well as my new book, More Life with Death. And so that was where we actually filmed the moment, which is a very real moment actually in the film. And yeah, it's kind of like Entourage, right? We've got all the friends are in it, right? Who knows, cameos, Mitch Lafon, etc.
Oh, yeah.
But it's funny because Drew has been busy just finishing shooting and then starting to edit the film, and then the opportunity came up for me to appear here at this convention. And I do quite a few of these conventions, and I prefer the horror ones as opposed to just the straight Comic-Cons, mostly because I think there's a better connection of horror fans into the metal audience. Lots of times the Comic-Cons, it's a lot of Star Wars and mom and dad with the kids and that kind of stuff, which is okay too, but they look at, little Johnny looks at dad like, what's a Megadeth? That sounds scary, So we have a lot more fun at these, and so it was awesome to have the opportunity to come to the show, and one of the things that I asked Chris, the organizer, is if we could bring the film. So Drew really fairly quickly put together the trailer. Because I come to these, I usually come as kind of the rock star celebrity, which is great. But I also like when people are bringing films, they're bringing new things in, and kind of like for me when I go on tour, it's nice when you've got a new product, a new CD, a new book, new something. And so for me, this is a real thrill to come to a horror con. Not just as a rock star, but bringing something, and on this one, again, something I'm on the other side, I'm kind of behind the scenes on, and let Drew be he's the rock star actually on this one. So, very thankful to Chris and the con here to let us bring this in, and I feel like we're contributing and bringing something to the table and putting some new product into the horror film pipeline, which is cool. So I guess we don't really have our firm downbeat. We were literally just finishing the production of the film, so probably 2020 we're going to be out doing some more of these film conventions, making our way around doing some of those, and as we're getting I guess the retail and everything set up for the release of the film. This little moment just landed here, so that's why it's very kind of impromptu, and so thanks for letting us this is our dress rehearsal for future stuff, so we appreciate you guys coming up here and checking all this out and giving us a listen and a view. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and one more thing about the film. The past couple of years I'd see trailers for found footage movies, and it looks like you watch this thing and you know it's like got like a $10-20 million budget for a found footage movie. You know, it doesn't make any sense. It looks too good, you know. So this is really just like bringing back the grittiness of it. Like actually, like, you know, nobody would color correct stuff, you know, if it was actually found footage. Nobody would actually, you know, fix things and all that. This is like as it happens, you know. That's where the real terror happens too. It's very Hitchcockian in a way too. You don't always see things and you think you see things. But yeah, so we'll show the trailer, and yeah, here we go. Does it hit the space bar?
Space bar.
All right.
Yep.
Okay, so for the past few months, there's been this huge surge of missing persons reports, and it's all homeless people.
I mean, the whole thing's been blown way out of proportion.
But the hook is nobody gives a shit. What we're doing is building awareness, you know, to see if we can find out what the fuck happened to these people.
Some people moved underground. It didn't work out.
Yeah, I remember hearing about them. The stories that circulate in the undergrounders.
There were a ton of us. A whole community scattered all over the sewer system. Then us missing homeless started going missing. The sightings started happening, and I got the fuck back up here and lived every day trying to forget what I heard and saw.
Which was?
The manifestation of everything you never want to see in a near pitch black tunnel.
Turn the fucking camera on now, James. When I say capture everything, you capture fucking everything, okay? Everything!
So that's really rough right now, as you can tell, and the sound and everything, but it's just a little something for you guys to check out for the time being. And
What's that? Sure. Why not? Yeah.
okay. And we also have another scene that nobody's ever seen before. It's on the same flash drive. It's, okay, cool. Yeah, exactly. And it's from the like assembly cut of the movie, just kind of just floating along. But it's actually David Ellefson and Tom Hazard's scene for the movie. And it's it's like your third one. Yeah, that one. Yeah. And it's like a pre-production meeting, or so I think, as I show up to it. But yeah. All right. Not sure how the audio will sound, but it'll be all good. It's gritty.
Turn the fucking camera off.
No, it's
Dude,
just
this isn't a social call. Turn the fucking camera off.
it's just behind the scenes.
It all off, dude. I gotta run, man. I'll hit you back, all right? See ya. Bye.
What's up, dude?
What are you doing here?
Where is our fucking movie, Drew?
Oh, I'm almost done.
We gave you this money months and months and months ago. I've been asking you for footage. We haven't seen a second of footage. Not a second. Do you have any? Is anything done?
Well, there's certain elements I gotta prepare, you know, and it just...
We're not making Gone with the fucking Wind. Take your camera, point it at some homeless people, cut. That's all you need to do.
I know this stuff takes a little time.
Drew, listen, dude, here's the deal. You are in breach of contract. We gave you the money. This thing was supposed to be done, okay? Today's Friday. Our tour is ending. I want to see this thing by end of day Sunday at the latest. This is not going to tarnish my reputation, because if it tarnishes my reputation, it's tarnishing yours.
What reputation? Well, you made the fucking Bang Tango movie. What reputation are you going to
Well put. Who's your crew? Have you hired anybody?
Where's our money? Did you hire a fucking crew? Have you done anything?
Oh yeah, we got James Edwards and Doug Esper.
Who's that?
That's your fucking crew. Doug Esper and James?
Today's Friday. Our tour is over. We're heading to the last show. I want this thing fucking done. I mean, done.
We give you money to hire a real crew, rent real equipment, and make a fucking movie. I have 15 fucking chimps with a Nikon that could shoot this movie. And if it's not done, they will.
We got to get sound check. Let's get out of here. Enough of this numbskull. It never ends, man. Always something, isn't it? Unreal.
Show yourself out.
It's gritty, it's rough, you know. It's me walking around with the camera as the stuff unfolds. And initially the movie, you know, starts off with me getting the stuff behind the behind the scenes stuff, because it interests me, and it kind of upsets everybody as I'm doing it, because, you know, But yeah, so that's how the whole thing comes about, and this is pretty much like a documentary gone wrong. So.
But the reality of it is, you still haven't seen any footage except that. So.
Exactly. Yeah. That's all.
You know why we're pissed.
Yeah. Exactly. Even with the trailer and all that, it's still just like the top of the iceberg of what the movie really is. So I just wanted to show something here for you guys.
Maybe we'll settle the score now that we're in Canada.
Yeah. Exactly.
Go to the casino and work it out.
Exactly.
Anybody have any questions? Any thoughts? Or go ahead.
Is it to be released on network, or is it going to be like a Netflix movie? Or
I think, probably where we're aiming is probably a Netflix type of thing.
Yeah.
Obviously you need significant budgets in order to get into box office level stuff, and just as much the marketing and promotion. It's interesting having a record label and knowing where our sort of realm that we live in as the label. Where we basically license, like if you came to us with an album and says, man, I got this album, I'd go, all right, well, unless you're probably, 16 and the next Justin Bieber, Columbia's probably not going to sign you. So, but you're a musician and you want to put something out, so we found a place in our world with the label to be able to put records out for our friends, famous and sometimes not so famous friends. And the same thing, I think, with the film production thing. Obviously, if you're Lionsgate or, you're on that level, you have a whole other level of, funding things, just like Sony would, to be able to fund something. This is clearly an independent type of film. It's a low-dough film, for sure. As much as we're busting Drew's balls about it, it's a low-dough production. But at the same time, it's funny because we talk about Blair Witch, kind of how that film created this genre of the really low-dough, handmade. It's kind of like the Nirvana of the film division, Yeah, the grunge thing came out and suddenly it was like, well, we kind of like this. We sort of don't like big hair and big production, and
it's different.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the same thing. So with this style, and again, we're a little premature, but again, the idea to just come here and start this off and have this be essentially kind of our first foray into the film festival market and just starting to show some things at these conventions, as we get it done, and now we'll be starting to shop it shortly, probably in the coming weeks, so we can start getting a feel for what the market is going to respond to. And once the market responds back, you kind of know what you got and what you've got to work with, and go from there.
Yeah, just a matter of cooking it properly, And anybody else got any questions?
Question, comment?
Al?
Thanks for bringing it here.
Yeah.
Privileged to see it.
Oh, thank you.
That's phenomenal. Nice to meet you guys today.
You too, Al.
What are you going to do about a soundtrack to this movie?
That's the funny, ironic thing. I already talked to Tom about it. There's not a note of music in the whole movie, but we're still going to do a soundtrack.
Yeah. I think if you suddenly start putting a ton of music in, then again it kind of goes to this, the $100,000 trailer. It's like, wait a minute, I thought this was a handmade. You know what I mean? But it's funny. With that said, obviously, music and scoring of some level creates a compositional thing as a visual, as you even heard. There's just like little sort of daunting
Oh, yeah.
And music that you know that creates the tension around things, you know, as well as there's like, you know, the train, you know.
But that was all real too. That was all like
real stuff.
all
yeah.
happy accidents.
Yeah, I remember as funny as a kid. I remember there was I got an album. Don't even know what the movie was. It probably went, you know, straight to Tupperware, you know. And but I remember Cheap Trick had a song on it, and it was an original song. Remember the one? I forgot what it was. It was Cheap Trick. It was. And again, song never to be heard from again, and it may have been an outtake from album 1. I mean, like it was that raw, you know. But I loved it, and I bought the soundtrack just because Cheap Trick was on it, you know. So I think, you know, of course, again, having the label and having access to, you know, material and masters, and already having a lot of the, you know, that's an interesting thing when you start getting into film and usage of music. I don't know if you just saw the iPhone commercial this last summer, right, that had the Megadeth song on it. You know, even Apple, you know, they come to us and they ask, they say, hey, we're going to put this together. And it's ironic that little, commercial is actually up for an Emmy, which is amazing. I mean, I don't know that we'll get the Emmy because we didn't do the commercial, but our song's in it, so that's kind of cool, you know. But it's, you know, so it's interesting with the usage of music, and, you know, we have to be careful of that when people come to us with songs. A little group, Dalskin, they did a cover of an Alanis Morissette song, and so we have to go make sure we get the clearance of that to put that out. It's more expensive to do some things digitally than it is to put it out on physical. It's, you know, vice versa. And then digitally, it's interesting, in Europe, you know, you have to go to every country. You know, it's the beauty of the United States for us, and probably Canada too. You know, Canada's all this landmass with all these people under one license, same in the United States. It's because it's a big territory, one license covers the whole thing. You go to Europe, one license only covers England, then you got to go to Sweden, and then Norway, and then the Netherlands, you know what I mean? So it's just a freaking pain in the butt, you know, to do it. So, but it'll be nice with this, you know, to be able to have the, you know, with the record label, you know, we know a guy.
You got a guy.
You
could do Baldy's coffee if you wanted to. Do CBD oil.
Yeah.
Soundtracks are big, like,
yeah.
what you were just saying. I bought the Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Right, right.
Because of, what was that? That wasn't 99 Ways.
That was Go to Hell. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Same thing, I think 99 Ways to Die.
Yeah.
Beavis and Butthead.
Well, and the funny thing about that one is, for instance, Interscope had called us. They were a brand new label at the time, and they had called us to do the song. And the A&R guy that was for the label, kind of the talent scout, he had actually was working at Capitol Records, and we got signed to Capitol in 1986. So we knew him, and so he was a big fan of Megadeth. So that's why he reached out to us. So it's interesting, again, the relationships inside the industry between film and music. You know, we got pulled into a bunch of soundtrack work in the late 80s, early 90s. Penelope Spheris, of course, brought us in this little movie called Dudes that had Lee Vang, Flea, and John Cryer in it. You know, again, straight to Tupperware, you know, but the soundtrack, what's that, Universal Soldier? Yeah. So there was these cool little moments, and then Penelope Spheris, you know, she did the Me and My Darkest Hour video, the No More Mr. Nice Guy video. So it's, you know, it's kind of a, you know, the film and record business, if you will, music side of it is great. And I think that probably, you know, for Drew, again, I knew him as a musician, and it's like awesome skills in front of the camera, behind the camera, and everything else.
And the audiobook too.
And the audiobook, yeah.
Which is done.
You know, the audiobook for More Life with Death is coming out next week, and Drew, we got everybody to narrate the film. Obviously, most of it is me. Some of it is my partner, Tom Hazer. But we also got KK Downing, Dan Donegan from Disturbed, Mark Slaughter, and then Drew did a ton of it. Alice Cooper. Honestly, I didn't want to even ask Alice, you know. He was kind enough to write the foreword to my previous book, and so I didn't even want to go to him and ask it as he's busy on tour, you know. So I left him alone, but everybody else, I kind of put the arm on him. But then I hit Drew. I said, hey, Drew, can you do a bunch. There's like kind of some little bumpers and a bunch of different stuff. Little, in between narrations, you did a lot. You did a lot. You picked up a ton of stuff.
At first, I thought you wanted me to do your stuff too, so I started doing that, and I was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, good, okay, it's good. But still, there's a lot of stuff. But it was fun though. I never thought I had a voice for that,
Yeah, no, it's great. It's fun. We were in Nashville and working on the Megadeth album back in May and June, and all of a sudden it hit me. I was talking to again Tom, my partner there. And we just kind of go, man, it'd be great if we got everybody who contributed, because it's a little like Motley Crue, The Dirt. They kind of invented the genre, that style where everybody sort of chimes in on a moment, and they all kind of give their. It's like the four Gospels. They all four saw the same thing in a different view. And so we kind of did a little bit of that with my book, and so. I was in between, Megadeth takes. I built this little hut in my bedroom at the house that we're writing and doing some, the writing in. And I had this little hut with literally the microphone and GarageBand. I'm sitting here like, reading my book. I called Kiko and Dirk, our guitar player and drummer, said, hey, can you guys come in here and read your parts? So I suckered them into it, and that's when we got Drew involved. And Drew was actually pretty heavily, working on the film at that time, so.
It's so fun how the whole thing came together too, because there's like essentially the email, and then so 6 months later, here we are.
Yeah. Well, we were just at a convention. We were just doing one of these in Indianapolis.
Rockin' Pod, right?
Rockin' Pod. What was one in Indianapolis?
Days of the Dead.
Days of the Dead.
One at the dinner.
Yeah, Days of the Dead. Yeah, and all these ideas are kind of coming together. So I think it's funny. People always ask us like, you see the the naysayers and the complainers online. Oh, music sucks, business sucks, and da 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 da, and rock is dead and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, well, if it's dead, let's revive it. Let's do something else with it. So I think for us in our wheelhouse, we do a lot of this. We do books, we do records, we do coffee, come to conventions. I think there's a way to do it, but you just got to be willing to roll up your sleeves and do all of it.
Speaking of rolling up your sleeves and doing all of it, my wife, she's a lot of the big reason this thing got done as quick as it did, because she's a line producer on this, and she made sure I got everything done I needed to get done. She's actually in the movie too. She's the poster girl right there, getting her head grabbed, and I don't know, I guess you gotta see the movie to see what happens to her. But yeah,
for better or for worse, till death do you part, or until you star in a movie.
Exactly. Yeah. That's funny too. I actually, I was in a movie called, Her Name Was Krista, a couple years ago, and it's still coming out, and it's like The Notebook with like necrophilia. It's a my part doesn't reflect that. It's like a dark love story.
Like life itself.
Exactly. Check out Bob Kolikott's website, Fits of Horror. They did a great review on it. But on the set of the movie, I got with the director James L. Edwards, who's also in this, and he plays himself. And he stars in Her Name Is Krista as well. So I got with James, and I was like, James, I'd love to propose to my girlfriend on the set of the movie. Can we get her like a small part that interacts with my character? And turns out we were able to do that, and I proposed to her on the set of a horror movie. So
It's on YouTube.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. Yeah, exactly. Cool. But I also wrote a book about all the random stuff I did too. So we're like book buddies.
Yeah, yeah. We kind of all this stuff goes around. So.
I've had a very fruitful, odd, under the radar career with all this stuff, and I never like to repeat myself, so I like to do different stuff. Yeah. What comes around? The Tough album, right? Remember Tough? Oh yeah, a great band. Yeah. But I couldn't be thankful to be involved with Dave and Tom and everybody, and who ended up in this thing too. We even got Jeff Hatrich from Mushroomhead, which wasn't like on purpose. He was the singer of Mushroomhead. Yeah. He just happened to be in Ohio, and he was a friend of a friend.
Yeah.
So and he has a good part.
So again, it's like Entourage.
Yeah. Exactly.
Or Entourage.
Yeah. He plays a creepy homeless guy.
All your friends are dying too.
You just jinxed me.
That's awesome.
But
you had another question?
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Comment?
I'm a little starstruck. I got 2 generations of Megadeth fans here.
Nice.
Seen you guys since the 80s, but I got a chance to talk with Drew earlier and a little bit about the movie. I came here to see Dave Ellefson, but I got to meet Drew and talk a bit about the movie and come to this panel. But the panel is kind of interesting with respect to learning a bit about this movie, because I had not heard of it. So it's kind of a good outlet to get that out there and social media and stuff and get it moving. But How long is the movie?
Oh, it's a feature length. It's probably gonna be a little under an hour and a half.
Yeah, okay, great. And that homeless dynamic with respect to the homeless people missing, is there any message within that movie with the writing?
Not on purpose.
No.
Not on purpose, but there probably is though.
Yeah.
Like thinking about it now, like I think that a lot of people are gonna watch it and be like, "Are you trying to say this or that?" But it's up to the viewer to decide if, like when I did the Bang Tango movie, it's like by the end of it, you think of the singer Joel Estate one way or another way. Like you either love him or you hate him by the end of it. Oh yeah. It's, I had to release it for free on YouTube because of music licensing issues with Universal. But yeah. But so you can find that on YouTube. The Attack of Life, the Bang Tango movie. Dee Snider does the opening narration. It's pretty funny. But yeah, as far as like messages and dwellers, it's and nothing on purpose. It's maybe probably subconsciously. As I was writing it, just
Is there any philanthropic, like a percentage of the sales might go towards our foundation for homeless awareness in Ohio?
Now we probably have to. Since you brought it up. No.
Well, it's kind of like, when I was when I saw Joker, right? It's like all of a sudden there's kind of these, hot button topics of depression, and they've got the kind of dickhead, sorry my language, but the Trump guy, right? They got so it's kind of like very modern, even though it, probably the storyline was never meant to be that, but as it comes out, it's like these things that are kind of current.
Oh yeah, and it takes place in the early '80s too.
Yeah, right.
So it's like, kind of cool how they were able to make that time and still relate to modern times.
And it's interesting in Ohio, I actually did quite a bit of touring there this year, and it's funny that all the tours I did this summer, we're supposed to be out on the Aussie tour, and that got postponed, which for Megadeth means canceled, because we're not going to be on that next year. We've got other plans, so we're going to announce in February for a tour next year. But Frank Bello and I from Anthrax, we have another little group called Altitudes and Attitude. So he and I said, look, Frank, we got to roll up our sleeves. This isn't Anthrax and Megadeth. This is you and me starting something new. So we got to get down in the clubs and get our hands dirty. And we just literally drove around the Midwest. And Frank even said, he goes, dude, I've been through this area for 30 years. I've never seen this area. I said, I know, because we're in these cocoons of tour buses, watching movies, sleeping, whatever we're doing. Meanwhile, the kind of life's passing you by. And that was a real reality in Ohio. I mean, the heroin highway from Michigan down there, and to really see, I've been going through Ohio my whole career for 35 years, and the whole steel belt of the Rust Belt, I should say, of the Midwest. Those are some of the earliest places Megadeth toured, and now to go back there and see Michigan just falling apart, and Ohio, and
we drove through Detroit on the way up here, and it's man, RoboCop can't save that city now.
No, I know it's insane. So to see a lot of this stuff. So yeah, when Drew came to us about this whole film idea, it's like, wow, he could just get a visual on it, having been there, and now watching it, you're like, oh my God, there it is. And so a lot of the those areas that had once had great prosperity and stuff. So it's I guess more will be revealed when we see the final film.
Absolutely. Yeah, like I was saying, there's definitely, with the way it plays out, that definitely you could view it as the message being said about there not being any cure for the homeless, because like in the trailer, it's these people started going missing and nobody cares, and the press, local authorities, everybody, and then just kind of the idea of that project kind of piqued Dave's character in the movie, and it's like, hey, you just get out there and make this happen, for awareness purposes. And there's a fun payoff with that too, with later on in the movie that you'll see, why you are really doing the movie. You're gonna get a big kick out of that. Yeah, she knows.
That's great. Yeah.
But any other questions, Bob? Yes, Bob.
So, what do you think was, as far as...
Oh, I'm sorry, one second. Bob's also in the movie. Bob Goldegott, he plays an amazing part in the movie. You call him the train hobo. Yeah, he has a great part.
What do you think was the most difficult part of the production aspect of this, or what big adversities or obstacles did you have to overcome?
One of them was losing the first day's footage. And then poor Bob had to have him come down from New York to Ohio twice.
Aside from that,
okay.
I don't want to talk about it.
I was never going to tell anybody about that, but here you go. This little IMDb trivia for you. But
Hence our meeting in the hotel room. Where is the footage?
exactly.
Oh, so you had to redo it too?
Oh no, we did his part once.
Yeah,
We attempted. We've been talking about getting that part done for a while. Because like even like as far as back as Doom and the Ozzy tour is still going. We're like, okay, we do it this date, then that tour got canceled.
Yeah,
and then
no, you're right. That's right. We had a couple of different times that we were going to come through. As we were coming through on the Ozzy tour, we had a date set and that canceled. Then we thought, well, I'll be coming through on a Bass Story tour. We'll do it then. That didn't work. We ended up doing
Rockin' Pod?
Rockin' Podcast down in Nashville, and that's like these conventions.
it's too
They're so
hectic.
crazy. You just can't even have a minute to focus. And
I think it was perfect the way it happened.
they finally caught us on the last day of the Midwest tour. So yeah, it was good timing. Kind of fit well with it. You know, it's interesting too with this is, you know, I've making records. You know, it's kind of the same thing that it's making albums is a big project, just like making a film. A lot of moving parts, a lot of putting things together. You want to be careful what you show, when you show it. And especially, I think, with a film, because, you know, I always love, like, you know, Wayne's World, where they do the 3 endings at the end, you know, the Scooby-Doo ending, and, you know, and it's amazing how, you know, one little diversion at any moment can change the whole story. It can change the whole trajectory of it. And in films, you know, we just go to the box office, get some popcorn, watch an hour and a half of a movie, go, wow, what a great story. But, you know, there's all this other footage that ends up on the floor, the editing floor, that doesn't get used. And at some point, you know, I've really come to appreciate the editing editors. You know, like when they win Oscars and stuff, you realize, man, the editing really, they're the storyteller, because you can film a bunch of stuff, but how it's edited together to tell the story really makes the difference. It's kind of like in making albums. You know, if in doubt, record it, throw it down, and then we'll fix it. And when we mix it, we'll see if we need it. Yeah, like I was listening to a Judas Priest album today because I'm getting ready to go over and work with KK next week. And so I was listening to some Painkiller, and I was just listening to all these little vocal, you know, these little sweeteners they put in there, and these little lines Halford would sing, one here, one there, these little harmonies and stuff. And of course, live, you know, they probably never, you know, executed that live because it's a lot of bombast. But you know, when you're listening back to really listening to something on headphones and you can hear the nuances, it's really incredible. So it's fun for me now being part of the film thing. As kind of raw and grungy as all this is, you know, there's a lot of levels of detail. And it's interesting how, you know, when we make a song that, you know, we'll have one intent, we'll write it about something, and then you listen as a listener, you know, we hear, so we either relate it to our life, or we go, wow, I wonder if they're talking about that. You know, like the most recent Ghost album, having gone through the lawsuit with his former band members, and of course we've been through that in our band. So as he's singing songs about rats, I've been going, I bet he's writing about those crazy that are suing him right now, you know. And you know, that you just kind of go through that, and so you know, you don't, like you said, you know, is there some kind of awareness about, you know, homelessness
And there really is, like there really is in the movie. Thinking about it now, you know, it's like it has. You know, I'm editing the movie too, and editing is a nightmare. But I enjoy doing it though, like the.
So let me ask you this: so you know, I always think it's a danger to produce yourself as an artist, because it's just good to have. And I'm a collaborative person by nature, so me, whereas like Mustaine, for instance, not collaborative. He's very much, you know, it's that's the art of working with him, is to let him, because he's got a lot of ideas, and he doesn't sort of lay them all out. They're in his head. He walks around and he lets them out as he wants to let them out, and that's how he works. So when you're working with different people, you have to respect, okay, he's got the idea up here, it'll end up coming out at some point. Sometimes you're sort of, you know, painting with, you know, one arm behind your back and kind of guessing what colors to use. But as an editor, to take something that you've, you know, created in your mind, you've executed it now from the actors and directing it, but now you're taking it in to actually edit it. I'm interested myself, what are some of the challenges, you know, from a storyline point of view? Is it easier because you know the storyline and it's...
Well, after the first mental breakdown, everything's a breeze. No, but it's, you know, because I had my original vision for this movie, I shot. And the cool thing about it, though, is that since I wrote it, directed it, I'm in it, and I'm editing it, I got to be in control of how the outcome is. And the original third act of the movie I didn't feel worked right, so I was able to completely restructure that to where it works even more perfectly. And with that said, I'm actually going to do 2 cuts of the movie.
Nice.
Yeah, and so there's 2 completely different cuts like that exist, and they both go like the Scooby-Doo ending, but like more so in the middle of the movie, it goes a whole different direction. And but yeah, just being able to figure out like when enough is enough, you know, when shooting and all that and everything, because like I could be like, oh hey, Saturday, let's go up to Ohio, back to the tunnel, and shoot some more stuff and what we need, which we have done a couple times, you know, as you know, as she's, you know, and then yeah, I mean it's tough, but at the same time, it's like I know the way I need it to end up, you know, instead of like having somebody else edit it and just having to wait for, you know, to wait to see what they were working on and all that. It's like I got it on my laptop and I can pull it up whenever and just chip away at it when I need to. And then when I get sick of it, I just walk away and just work on something else. And yeah, it really is tough because I learned that with the Bang Tango movie. I ended up with 400 hours of footage that I had to go through. And I did have a mental breakdown doing that one. Because
plus you were in the band, so that
right. Oh yeah, and that's the funny thing is, I was actually before I joined the band is when I did the movie, and the movie's just brutally, you've seen it, it's brutally honest and poignant. You know, it's just really just like tears them apart.
That's how insane he is. He does a movie and realizes how crazy these guys are, and he goes, you know what, I'm in.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get the first-hand experience.
It's not like you didn't know.
You know what's funny though? I wrote a
When I
book.
met Dave, I legitimately didn't know. I'd never heard of Metallica. I'd never heard of him. I'm like, all right, he writes good songs. I'm in, you know. Little bit I know what I was getting in for, of course.
Under the surface.
36 years later, now we know.
Oh yeah, and I wrote a book about the whole thing too, which I have here. Like he has his books here as well. And tomorrow we'll have them if anybody wants them. But and when I joined the band, everything came true in the movie. Like it became the movie. It was like the line between reality and art just kind of blurred, and I was like, I am living everything that happened in the movie. Like everything everybody says about this person, that person, all that, I'm experiencing it firsthand. So it was like kind of like the perfect bookend for the whole experience of doing the movie for the band. And they were crazy for letting me join because like it didn't make them look. It depends how you feel at the end of the movie. Either you love them or you hate them. But even with that said, why would they want me in the band? Just because it wasn't a fun.
I just threw them under the bus, and now they want me in the band.
Yeah, exactly. And they didn't even hate me or nothing, you know.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a fluff piece, though. That's for sure. And I think they appreciated the honesty, and all the original members really loved it for that. And the only original member left right now is the singer Joel Stay. And I remember at the screening, I showed it once in Chicago at the screening, and the whole band was there. The current band, where Joe's the only member left. And I remember to sit close to him to watch his reaction throughout the whole movie. And my favorite moment was as he's on screen saying something about a different member of the band, he stands up, points at the screen, and goes, "I didn't say that," as he's saying it on the screen. And then so that was, it's like a cat watching itself in the mirror, you know. And then he got up and left toward the end of it, and I chased after him like he was like my girlfriend or something. And then I caught him, and he was like, "Dude, what are you, some kind of asshole or something?" And I was like, "Dude, you can finish the movie, finish it." And he's like, "Gotcha." But then after he saw it, there was like, "Drew, the truth always hurts, and I really needed this. You know, I really appreciate you doing this. So I really needed to see this, and now I know what to do to help fix myself." You know. And so,
Nice. Very cool.
any other questions? Questions?
I have one. Just when you shot the film, was it shot with a really strict script line, or was it sort of a lot of organic, sort of come at it and see what comes out of it type of approach?
Very organic. Yeah. If you look at the script, like I shot the whole scripted version that exists, but at the same time as I was shooting it, and I was like, okay, we shot it this way. Bob knows, and of course you know, and even you. Yeah, when we did your scene, we just did that all improv.
Yeah.
Pretty much, we just kind of laid down like, okay, this needs to happen. You know, and then we just went for it, and he did an incredible job. You know, Dave. You got a future in acting, man. You really do.
Awesome.
But yeah, it was all very organic. I have a lot of footage too, not as much as the Bang Tango, but a lot. And there's yeah. So that was a big fun part of it too, to be able to just try out different things while we had everybody.
If I can chime in to speak, I've worked for a lot of different directors, and there's really two schools of directing. There's the ones that say, stick to the script, and then there's the ones that say, have a little freedom with it, make it your own, let's see what you got. Drew is that second one, and as an actor, it really allows you to open up your creativity and really like mold the character and become the character.
Thanks, Bob. Your check is in the mail.
Funny, making records is kind of the same thing, you know.
Yeah.
Some people are like, hey, play the notes exactly how I want it, exactly off you know, not really off the page, because seldom do we write things down. But, you know, I want it exactly like this. And other people are like, you know, just put your spin on it. I want what you do, you know, what you do.
Oh yeah,
So.
they're almost like happy accidents, you know. Like there's a lot, well, some of the stuff in the movie, it's like I didn't expect to happen, and you know, I was like, well, that turned out great. I didn't even anticipate that, you know.
Yeah.
And so like little moments like that, you know, we're just like, wow, you know, really, really happy with it, you know.
You had one?
Yeah, so, okay, so everybody's, is loose, like you're saying. So when you're editing, does that make it more difficult? Because it kind of takes the story in a different direction?
Well, it's a good question. It is, and that's where the mental breakdown part comes in. And then so it's like, you know, being able to, okay, so like somebody says something earlier in the movie, in a take, that could totally change the meaning of something else that happens later on. And it could either make it like, make more sense or have more of an impact, or just not make any sense at all. So I've been very lucky with all the footage I've been getting to where it's like, whoa, this actually enhances something that happens later on and sets that up even more. Like even with, like in the trailer, you see like, you know, that brief shot of the eye before we interview a homeless person. You see like, you know, eye graffiti on the wall. And this wasn't planned, but that plays into something else that happens later on in the movie about, you know, pretty much there's something watching you in the series. I don't want to spoil anything, but like little things like that, like I noticed, it's like, whoa, that works in a whole different thing, and you know, different using particular takes for certain words that just really like sets up the perfect punchline later on in the movie. So that was really cool to see it come together like that. Thanks, Dave.
You had a question? Yeah, go ahead. Did you have a question?
Is there a website to go to?
Oh, there's a Facebook. I think it's like @Dwellers movie, and also Ellefson Films. So we'll be just putting stuff out like that. We'll be putting out the finished version of the trailer probably in a day or two after we get the audio worked out perfectly and everything. And I'm trying to think what else. And you can follow Dave's page, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I do Facebook and Instagram a little bit, and Twitter. I can't even spell Twitter. So.
Moving forward, will both of you, will this be a lot in your future as well? Do you think you'll expand and go further into this business?
You know, I think so. I mean, look, I think Drew's already pretty well entrenched in it, you know, having done a documentary rock and roll film and now getting into doing, you know, a horror film like this. You know, I think probably, again, further integration maybe of the label side with the music and kind of, you know, exploring that. Once we start to get into the distribution, you know, and getting that locked in, because that's kind of like a record label. You can say you have a record label, but if you can't get records distributed, music distributed, you know, you're not really a label. So I think that will be the next step for us. And the first thing is you need content. You need content in your pipeline to be able to make that happen. And quite honestly, that's how our label blew up. Started with me just producing a little band, and then you know, Tom Hazard said, hey, I've got a slew of bands, I've worked for labels, why don't we start a label and build it? And so this very much the same thing over on the film side. I think the thing that's kind of fun with the film thing is that, you know, we kind of know where music is at. You know, I think people are kind of over the idea that it's all just for free. But you at least have to buy a Spotify subscription for $3 or whatever, or an Apple Music subscription, you know, or at least look through very annoying, you know, ads on YouTube. So I think we've kind of, you know, the world, and probably not our generation as much as maybe millennials, who kind of grew up with, hey, music's for free and isn't this fun? And it's all on a device and all that. So, you know, it's every generation, you know, kind of deals with that differently. I think that the beauty of getting into film that I'm excited about is that there's different outlets, different ways to watch it. It's a lot harder to bootleg the stuff. And granted, there's apps that can crack things and, you know, do all that. But that's the very few, you know what I mean? It's. I think I'm excited to just explore new mediums of again, they say Netflix. I was part of a couple of films. This one out of story of these kids down in Paraguay who grew up living in a landfill. And a guy started making instruments for them out of the garbage, and they created a little orchestra called the Recycled Orchestra. And Steve Nash, our basketball player from Phoenix, now he's retired, but his wife Alejandra is from that little city in Asuncion, Paraguay. And so she got behind as a pet project to really put awareness to this, and raised $1 million between all their crowdfunding and everything, and put together a documentary around that. And that was on HBO Espanol, the Latin HBO. And then I get to be part of another documentary called Hired Gun, which Jason Hook from Five Finger Death Punch he started it because he's had a really cool career as both a sideman before Five Finger, before he became a band member. He played with Mandy Moore.
Bullet Boys, wasn't he Bullet Boys?
I don't know, was he in Bullet Boys?
I know what that
Was he?
was a Bullet Boy.
Okay, I wonder if it was him, yeah. And he wanted to do the documentary film. There was a film called, 20 Feet from Stardom?
Oh,
Right, which is about the backing vocalists who were never in the spotlight, so sort of like Diana Ross and the Supremes, right? So they kind of did the ones about these sidemen singers who were, standing there right next to fame, part of the fame, but the fame was not really theirs and it was never their name on the marquee. So the film that Jason did called Hired Gun is same thing. I think that I heard it cost them around $1 million, to raise the money, and they got a deal with Netflix. And the director of that, Fran Strine, is a dear friend of mine. He's now out of that film working on something with Ray Parker Jr., another film. And so it's fun being around that. It's kind of like the grown-up version of the record business, because as music became more accessible and more people could make stuff and put it out more easily online, obviously making film content, even whether they're shorts or full-length features, it's a lot of work. It's the filming, the editing, and the actors, and the storyline, and the all the stuff that goes with it. And so it's fun for me. And I'm I defer to Drew. I mean, I'm thankful. I'm thankful that Drew even let me brought it over to our house to put this thing out. So I'm excited about our partnership, just because we're friends and we've done other things before, but now to be involved in something that's a real partnership and a collaboration together. But then also his resources, because he's more entrenched in this world. And once we start coming to these horror cons, I realize I walk in the door, and as famous as I am in my world, I get in this world and I'm like, whoa, I mean, there's a whole other level of stuff going on over here, that I'm now I'm a baby small player. I'm the little booth in the back, with this kind of stuff. So it's fun to be part of a new endeavor.
Oh, and I love seeing that too, because you're known for what you're known for in the music business, and it's so cool to bring you over into the film business and watch it grow from there. Just to be taken serious as a film producer.
These documentaries are cool because in those, like the Paraguay one, I mean, they flew me down there. I mean, I literally was down in the pig poop and the garbage, walking around, meeting these kids in the landfill. I mean, it was a very touching, emotional moment, and during that film. So that was part of me, again, bring this, celebrity rock star guy into their world, and that was very touching. And then I brought them up to play a show with Megadeth. So that was kind of the hook of that film. So I went to their world, brought them over to my world. So it was this fun thing like that. I think what's cool about this is that I really don't know this world at all. It's really a new education for me. And I shouldn't say I don't know it at all. I mean, we did a Wes Craven film called Shocker. We did Alice Cooper's No More Mr. Nice Guy for that. But again, we were on the music, on the soundtrack side of it, and that kind of continued our friendship with Alice Cooper. And his manager, Shep Gordon, well entrenched into the film business, Alive Films, and then he got into doing restaurants like De Niro's Tribeca, Alice Cooperstown in Phoenix and stuff. So, there's a whole nother kind of next level world as we've opened coffee stores and all these different things. I think this is kind of the fun stuff in life now, to just sort of, let your, sometimes it's nice if you're not in the room, at least when you knock, they go, oh, it's you, we know you, come on in. So that's, I did a rock and roll fantasy camp tour with Kip Winger, and of course he was telling about, you know, when that whole thing went south with his career. I mean, he was selling out arenas, and one day Lars is throwing darts at him in a Metallica movie, and Beavis and Butthead are making fun of him. And he said, literally within a month, I went from 10,000 seaters to 5,000 seaters to 1,500. He goes, I was calling everybody, just going, please make it stop, and it was over, you know. And Kip's gonna, I met Kip, he's a bass player with Alice Cooper back when we did the Peace Sells Alice Cooper tour. And so, you know, some people have the unfortunate moments like that where, you know, and Kip's a wonderful guy. I was just on a flight with him a couple months ago, and he's out working and doing fine, but you know, that moment where you're just like, all the doors are closing, you know. And I had a minute when Megadeth had disbanded in 2002, and that was a scary moment because my life as I knew it literally screeched to an end. And so that's when I learned, okay, now it's about roll up my sleeves, get back out in the trenches, reinvent, and do new stuff. And that's what I've watched Drew do, you know, constantly coming up with new ideas. I love people that show up back at the door again, hey, I got another new thing I'm working on. It's like, awesome.
I
You know?
think I got another new thing for you.
Good?
Yeah.
All right, good. More to be, yeah, go ahead.
Was that when Dave's arm was?
Yeah, exactly,
I
yeah.
read the book.
No, you did it? Yeah, Dave had an arm injury, and so, you know, the band ended, and I mean, that was a scary moment, and it's, you know, and I think probably for all of us, and that's why I appreciate people in entertainment that are always hustling, and I see a lot of the same people coming around doing the autograph shows, you know, from time to time, in between making films and other stuff. It's cool that they're out, you know, connecting with everybody, and just doing photo ops and signing stuff, and it's just kind of, you know, it's part of what we do, it's part of our life, you know. So. Yeah, one more question, I guess we should probably wrap it up since it's almost 6 o'clock.
Do your trailer, are you gonna write, actually, when you do your next album, are you gonna kind of wrap it around this idea, or?
No, the Megadeth, like a solo album, you mean?
Yeah.
Or like the Megadeth album won't be, of course, that'll be its own standard for anything. But yeah. The next solo endeavor, I mean, I don't have a plan for one. I've gotten a plan of some writing and some collaboration for that. And it's interesting, even when I did the solo album, Sleeping Giants, once we wrote one song called Vultures one night while we were on tour. Just went to the studio in Tampa, banged the tune out, and the idea was like, hey, we got the new book coming out next year, because that was 2018 at the time, and we thought, you know, maybe we'll just put a digital download, you know. Then it became 2 songs, then it became a whole bunch of songs. It was like, hey, now we got a whole album, let's just make it a companion. So, you know, you never know. That's actually not a bad idea. We'll have to cut you in as like a executive producer. But yeah, you never know. Sometimes things they just line up like that. You're like, I've got this and I've got that. Hey, why don't we package them together or sort of put them together? Now it just tells a much bigger, better story.
And how cool would it be? You show up to a Frightmare in the Falls next year, and you get they're actually serving Ellefson coffee.
Yes.
You know, something like that.
While watching the film and listening to the album.
Exactly. Or you go see Dave play like a solo show, and you can buy the movie at the merch table. You know.
Maybe I should just write a hologram one. I guess will be in the hologram. And then I don't.
That was actually the idea I had.
Skype it in from home, you know.
Dave, that was actually the idea I had for you later.
Well, listen, thanks so much, everybody. One more question, and then because at 6 o'clock and the show wraps at 6.
What's the best way to drink an Ellefson coffee? Black?
You know, however you like it. I have been drinking coffee black, and because I always like some little additive to it, lately I've been putting honey in it, which I really like. And honey's a good sweetener. Obviously, if you're traveling like I do and you can get local honey, it's good for the allergies. If you're local in an area, you drink it from the
Natural, too.
Yeah, it's natural, so it's better for glycemic stuff, you know, so you don't get sugar spikes and all that kind of crap. And also, sometimes when I'm at home, because, you know, I can go to a health food store and buy stuff, I've been drinking like oat milk, and also coconut milk, which can be very thick and pretty heavy, actually, so it kind of emulates like a half and half. So those are probably my 3. Like here, I just had some milk in it, and it's funny, it made me cough a little bit. I really try not to drink a lot of dairy. You know, it's just for I speak a lot and sing. Dairy's not good for your vocal cords and such. Just talk about it. All right, well, thank you much, everybody. We'll see you guys tomorrow back down on the show.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.